Welcome to Northern Life Down Under and the last of our reports from Australia. I'm going to regret this report. I've been told that one thing you must do when you're in Newcastle is have a go at surfing. Everybody does it, and it's one of the best surfing beaches in Australia. In fact, it's so good that last year they had the Surfest here. That's like the World Championships of Surfing.
Newcastle is known for many reasons, but steel and surfing are synonymous with the city's image. Newcastle Beach is the venue for professional surfing, and in its third year, Surfest has become the biggest professional surfing contest on the world circuit. 7 events, the drawcard, the BHP Steel International. Money and ratings points had attracted the top 100 men and top women to the last Australian event before the Hawaiian circuit. Surfers from every surfing nation, and as usual, the large contingent of Australians relishing 9 days of non-stop waves, and there were many inspired performances.
I think that first of all, I better learn how to swim.
You'd be better off playing cricket with the Newcastle Nomads. They're on their first foreign tour. Over the next 2 weeks, they'll be playing 8 matches against teams in Newcastle, New South Wales. The side includes 3 engineers and 2 dentists, a sales rep, an estate agent, and the editor of this programme, Clive Page, out on holiday and out for a duck. The rest of the team didn't do too well either, all out for 71. The Aussie side, called the Newcastle Cavaliers, scored 353, but there are another 7 games to go. Managing the squad is Norman Graham.
No, it's disappointing really, but I think we didn't want to spoil their celebrations, being 200 years old, and their hospitality's really got to us. That's the honest truth.
It's certainly a good job they weren't playing for the Ashes. Now, being a Stocktonian, there's one place I had to visit while we were in New South Wales, and that is Stockton. We're on our way there now, and we're to be the guests of the Stockton Lions. It's quite familiar, isn't it, really? And that could almost be the A19 flyover. No, it couldn't. There's no roadworks.
Stockton was founded in September 1797 when Lieutenant John Shortland and his merry men landed on the peninsula to hunt escaped convicts. But it wasn't until 40 years later that the township began to develop. It was the early industrial hub of the Hunter Valley. Tin smelting, an acid plant, engine works, textiles, coal mining, shipbuilding and timber yards flourished. These days, much of that industry has gone. The area has been landscaped and Stockton has become a residential suburb of Newcastle. It's home for 6,000 Australians, and this is their beach. 21 miles of uninterrupted sands. But back to the Lions. When they heard on NBN that I was a Stockton lad, they said they had a surprise in store.
Ross, I'm here. What's the big surprise? I'm intrigued.
Well, Paul, seeing that you're a citizen of Stockton in England, we thought we would like to make you an honorary citizen of Stockton in New South Wales and present you with a passport to Stockton.
That's very kind of you. Thanks very much indeed. I've seen some of these around town, actually. And I notice in the back it says that I'm a bona fide resident of Stockton and allowed to come and go toll-free as I wish. Does that mean you'll pay my airfare if I want to come back?
I'm afraid the club's not quite that financial at the moment, Paul.
So our trip down under is almost over. As they say in Oz, it's been fair dinkum, real beaut.
God, he's got a list.
Hello, Fred Morrison.
Everybody in the Lily Lane Club.
It says in everybody in the Lily Lane Club. Michelle, Paul. The lot of years, you know.
Come out here to the good life.
Hold on there.
And sadly, that's the last of our reports from Australia. It really has been dreadful working out here. Actually, we've enjoyed every minute of it, and we hope you've enjoyed the pictures we've sent back.
Frosty.
There's been the splendour of the toast.
Frosty, taxi's waiting.
Brilliant. A man for all seasons. 23 hours on an aeroplane next to that. That is all we have time for. Back in England shortly. See you all then. Bye-bye.
The Premier had quite a reception on his arrival as hundreds of senior citizens waited for his expected rail travel announcement. The concession was better than anyone imagined. Extended concession limits allow old age pensioners to travel from Newcastle to Sydney for just $1. The Newcastle suburban limit will also be extended, allowing a 60-cent excursion as far as Gosford. All told, from March 13, pensioners will be able to buy a $1 a day ticket for unlimited travel by train, government bus and ferry services in an area bounded by Nowra, Lithgow, Mossvale and Newcastle. Pensioner groups representing about 60,000 people in Newcastle alone have been campaigning for concessions for about 2 years. And the Premier is the first to admit that it won't do his re-election chances any harm at all.
It will be a great vote, yes, but let me just say this. The concept of pensioner concessions was introduced by the Rand government. The previous government gave pensioners nothing. Pensioner concessions were introduced by the Rand government and they have been progressively improved since the government took office, and they have been improved during my term as Premier. And while ever I'm Premier, I look after the senior citizens of this state.
Traffic bottlenecks are a frustrating part of life on Hannell Street while oil companies move rolling stock from their fuel terminals at Wickham and Tyes Hill. Lengthy talks between oil companies and Newcastle Council have led to Esso Australia submitting a development application to relocate its bulk storage terminal at Kooragang Island. Mobil Oil has agreed to terminate its siding by March, leaving only Ampol with a lease on its rail siding until 1990. However, Lord Mayor John McNaughton says talks are underway to overcome this final hurdle to a complex problem.
We pride ourselves on being a 20-minute city. You can get it from anywhere in the city to anywhere else you want to go in the city in 20 minutes, and one of our major arteries is the industrial highway. Well, if you get a 10 to 20-minute break on that, it means that everybody's schedule's out of place, and it's not satisfactory.
The agreement might also be one idea of interest to Newcastle upon Tyne in England, which is about to enter a far-reaching exchange program with its most recent sister city, Newcastle. City council officials have been negotiating since last year to launch the exchange program, which will involve the movement of skilled personnel in council, universities and schools. The Lord Mayor says the cities have more in common than a name.
The thing that impressed me so much over there was their small high-tech industrial parks that they were preparing, not only what they were doing but how they were doing it. And there's a great deal for us to learn, and it's an initiative that the City Council can take. I think that's the important point. We can take this initiative, we can get the ideas moving, and we can get the benefits for this region.
Are there other specific
Australia's 28,000 coal miners will consider extending their two-day strike unless colliery owners back down over plans to alter award conditions by application to the Coal Industry Tribunal. The national stoppage was called on Friday in protest against the actions of two Hunter Valley companies. Warkworth and BP's northern operations are trying to introduce longer working hours and new production schedules through the tribunal. Mining unions say the move flies in the face of negotiations taking place at a national level. Today, busloads of miners will attend the hearing of Warkworth's application before the tribunal in Sydney. At the conclusion of tribunal talks, the National Liaison Committee of Mining Unions will meet and consider future industrial action.
On Tuesday.
Dr. Klein is a specialist in workplace management at Harvard Business School. Her visit this morning is one of several in the Hunter over the next week to consult businesses looking towards major changes in workplace management. Dr. Klein says there's a worldwide shift in attitude to management, including a willingness among senior executives to look critically at their own performance. She says one key to success is to break down traditional hierarchies and departmental barriers, which result in delays in decision-making and wrong decisions. To achieve this, middle managers and foremen must be given a greater say.
As far as implementing change, they are the most critical. Obviously, the strategic change has got to come from top, the strategic direction. But when you think about who makes it happen on a day-to-day basis, it's the middle managers and the supervisors. In the past, unfortunately, they're the ones who've been left out.
Dr. Klein will also talk to management at BHP and Eastern Nitrogen, as well as conducting a number of public seminars.
The Corporate Affairs Commission believes public awareness is vital in its fight against financial crime. To that end, it has recently launched a program to educate investors. It's issued booklets of advice and is holding seminars in country areas, with Newcastle the 6th centre visited. More than 200 young and old investors attended the free seminar this afternoon, opened by Attorney General Ron Muirlock. According to the State Commissioner Bill Robinson, the seminars have been highly successful.
We're very heartened by the response from communities such as Newcastle to the seminars that we're bringing here today. This is the 6th seminar that we've done. All of them have been outside Sydney, and all of them are to provide people who can't get to Sydney easily, who can't get to the Corporate Affairs Commission, the opportunity to get good advice, good investment advice, and they'll be then well aware of the importance of that advice in investment decisions that they're making.
Mr Robinson also believes that the stock market crash last October has not significantly deterred small investors.
Quite the contrary. I think that October was useful to the extent that people now know that a stock market can go down as well as it can go up, and that highlights the need for good advice, secure and sound advice, so that people know when they're putting their money in that they're going to get reasonable security with what their investments are.
It's now well recognised that AIDS does not show up immediately in the system. According to the clinical director of the Hunter Immunology Unit, David Sutherland, a person can have AIDS for up to 3 months before it can be detected by the AIDS tests.
A certain level of antibody must build up in the blood before our tests are able to detect it. And so there is a window period, it's called, from the day someone gets infected through to 4 weeks or 8 weeks, and to be careful, we say 12 weeks before the test becomes positive.
However, Dr Sutherland doesn't believe that infected blood is slipping through the blood bank screening process.
The risk is negligible. You can't strictly say it's zero, but it's almost zero. We know that over 1 million consecutive donations were tested, only 13 were found to have the antibody in. That's a tiny amount. We know that the test picks up, again, almost all of them. So you're multiplying 2 tiny fractions together.
The fashion industry has hit Newcastle in a big way, and many say it's been a long time coming. Last night, 5 new fashion houses now operating in the district displayed their goods. Featuring colourful designs in casual, children's and evening wear, the creative garments of Hunter Street, Ticat, specialising in bedwear, Canet Activewear, Bell House and Times Square were paraded before a packed house at the Newcastle Workers Club. The event was co-sponsored by the Hunter Region Enterprise Agency, which has supported all of the 5 new businesses that have sprouted within the last year. According to Robin Spooner from Hunter Street, fashion spectaculars like this one boost more than just sales.
It helps us to get the exposure that we need in order to get to the public so they'll support us.
You're from Hunter Street, and in fact the Fashion House is the only cooperative of its kind in New South Wales in the fashion industry.
Yes, that's right. We started out in response to local designers wanting somewhere to have their garments manufactured locally. And the cooperative differs in as much as we offer people who come in the chance to join with us by buying shares after 6 months. So therefore they're not just employees, they're actually part of a working operation. How do you...
The Russians head the list of internationals, which also include competitors from Poland, Norway, Bulgaria and Finland. All are national champions and ranked very high in the world. Besides the Europeans, there will be touring internationals from the USA and England. Also lining up will be local stars Chris Watson, Todd Wilshire, Brian Nixon and possibly Stephen Davies, as well as Queensland's Steve Redgling. The man behind the World Series tour is 9 times world champion Ivan Major of New Zealand, who says the locals will have to be outstanding to beat the visitors.
Here in Australia there's always local heroes. There's always guys who know their way around their own track, and this is no exception. There's 1 or 2 guys who know their way around here. And they've normally got a home track advantage over international competitors. But generally the international competitors are more experienced, and towards the end of the night this whole thing builds up to a 6-rider, 6-lap final, and by the time the riders have had the meeting under their belt, the internationals have normally got it.
So it'd be very surprising if one of the locals could get up and win.
I think the locals will win quite a few of the heats. They'll have their share in the heats, but I expect one of the international riders to win the final.
While the locals will be out to turn the tables on the world's best, the internationals will be chasing valuable points towards the overall World Championship title.
He astounded me and so with the detail that he had.
In tonight's news, the proposed ocean outfall for the Westlake sewage scheme has again been strongly criticised. Residents of Catherine Hill Bay believe their area has been targeted for the pipeline, but say they are determined to fight to stop its construction.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Newcastle looks a whole new team compared to last season. Under new coach Ken Cole, they won 8 of their 9 pre-season games, including a win over current NBL champions Brisbane. The only loss was by just 1 point to Hobart. The Falcons will start Saturday night's game against Eastside Melbourne as favourites after downing them only last week 119 to 104. Cole says despite a size disadvantage, Newcastle should win.
They're very big and very strong, but I don't think they've got the quickness to go with us or the shooting power, and I think that's the same for a lot of teams in the league. They're finding that we're a very difficult team to match up with. So it makes for a fun year when you're a bit different than everybody else in the league. They can't prepare for you.
There was a lot of talk in the off-season. You said you were confident of winning the title. You must be very confident now.
Oh, well, I'm confident that we'll give a really good account of ourselves. You know, this team will be a hard team to beat for anybody, and if we can make it through to the finals, anything can happen from there. I think if we get through to the finals, we'll be very tough to beat.
Okay, then. That'll do it. Let's get back to the men.
In the news tonight, Sydney model Elle Macpherson, known as The Body, is enjoying continuing success in the United States. For the third time running, Elle has featured on the cover of an international sporting magazine.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
News at 6, the Newcastle Falcons begin the long, hard road to win this year's NBL title on Saturday night at Broadmeadow. We talked to coach Ken Cole about the chances of the Falcons following up their almost unbeatable pre-season form in the clash against the East Side Melbourne Spectres.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Work on the $60 million Westlake sewage scheme is not due to start for several years. It's generally agreed that the scheme is required, but not so easily decided as how to dispose of the treated effluent. Suggestions of an outlet into Lake Macquarie or at Swansea Heads were met with public outcry. Now the residents of Catherine Hill Bay believe their area has been chosen and are angry. For several weeks, floats have been washing up onto Catherine Hill Bay Beach. Gina Mascord says they were thrown into the water by two men at a site 1 kilometre north.
We got a bit curious, so we've gone over and asked questions.
And what did they say?
They said that it's proposed site for a sewage outlet for over in the West Lakes.
Long-time resident Barry Wiltshire believes Catherine Hill Bay has been singled out as a line of least resistance.
Catherine Hill Bay only has a population of about 300 people, and I'd say that it'd be the least amount of objection they'd get from Catherine Hill Bay.
The Department of Public Works, however, denies that any site has as yet been chosen for the outfall. A spokesman said today that floats were being used to investigate currents along the entire coastline between Wybong Head and Swansea Head. Although he would not rule out Catherine Hill Bay as a possibility, the spokesman said when the department made its recommendations, community size would not be a factor. The Minister for Water Resources, Janice Crozio, says a decision on the outfall will not be made before the middle of the year, but she guarantees there will be no ill effects wherever it is located.
The beaches won't be affected, and I don't believe even the lake will be affected. There has been a lot of misinformation circulating around, and I say to all of those people, we are doing a complete environmental impact statement. You will be consulted, your opinions will be taken on board, and then and only then will a decision be made as to what we're going to do, the disposal of effluent in the future.
Thanks very much.
Police say this Pantech truck was turning off the highway when it collided with a white Sigma station wagon travelling east. The driver and one passenger in the car suffered minor injuries and were taken by ambulance to Singleton Hospital. The third occupant of the car, a 61-year-old male, suffered serious chest injuries and was stabilised by paramedics before being transported by a Westpac rescue helicopter to Maitland Hospital. All three are now in a satisfactory condition. The truck driver was not injured. Frankston police are continuing their investigations into the cause of the crash. Meanwhile, the driver of a tourist coach was killed and 8 passengers injured when the coach and a semi-trailer collided near Merredin, 250 kilometres east of Perth. Police say the deluxe coach was travelling east on the Great Eastern Highway at midnight when it collided with the truck coming the other way. The accident is thought to have been caused by a load shifting on the truck. The truck driver escaped injury. Good afternoon, I'm Ross Hampton. Tonight a report on the state of the Hunter Valley grape harvest. With several weeks of picking still to go, the unseasonal rain is proving a headache for growers.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.